Gabriel Royce, an amnesiac millionaire, sought refuge in a small-town library. When he uncovered the dark secrets his family had hidden, he realized his life was in far greater danger than he ever imagined. Before we dive into the story, let's do what Sleepless in Seattle taught us. Share where you're listening from. Comment below. Dust motes dance in the late afternoon sunlight as Claire Whitmore sorts through a stack of overdue bills at the circulation desk of Cedar Grove Library. Her fingers trace the edge of another final notice, the paper thin and threatening as a razor. The grand total at the bottom mocks her latest fundraising attempts, a number that grows more impossible with each passing month. I brought reinforcements. Sarah Martinez sets 2 steaming cups of coffee on the desk, the rich aroma a welcome interruption. Though you look like you need something stronger. Claire manages a weak smile for her best friend. Unless that's Irish coffee, I don't think it'll help much. She spreads the bills across the polished oak surface, her mother's pride and joy, salvaged from an old courthouse auction. The heating bill alone, we'll figure something out. Sarah pulls up a chair, the legs scraping against hardwood floors that have witnessed generations of readers. What about that winter book fair idea? After expenses, we'd barely break even. Claire's gaze drifts to the framed photo on her desk. Her mother on opening day, radiant with pride as she cut the ribbon. Margaret Whitmore had built this library from nothing, transforming an abandoned hardware store into a sanctuary of books and possibility. She made it look so easy. Your mother had her own battles. Sarah's voice carries the wisdom of someone who watched those struggles firsthand. Remember the flood of '95? Half the children's section underwater, and she still opened the next day with story time in the parking lot. The memory draws a genuine laugh from Claire, under that ridiculous beach umbrella, because nothing stops story time. Sarah mimics Margaret's firm tone, the one that could silence rowdy teenagers with a look. Claire's retort dies in her throat as she spots a flyer mixed in with the bills. West Cedar Grove Hospital, Volunteer Reading Program. The paper is crisp and new, probably dropped off by one of the hospital's outreach coordinators. Seeking compassionate readers to share stories with long-term patients. Claire, Sarah's tone carries a warning. You're already working 60-hour weeks here. 2 hours, twice a week. Claire studies the cheerful volunteer coordinator's contact information. Maybe a change of scenery would help clear my head. Mom always said that when you're stuck, help someone else. The solution usually finds you. Sarah sighs, but it's colored with fondness. Your mother also said to remember you can't pour from an empty cup. Mine's full. Claire lifts her coffee with a pointed look. Thanks to someone. The playful moment shatters as the overhead lights flicker, another reminder of the building's aging electrical system. Claire's stomach clenches. One more repair they can't afford. I should get back to the cafe. Sarah stands, gathering her coat. But promise me you'll at least think about the seasonal membership drive. We could set up a booth outside the shop, catch the morning crowd. I promise. Claire forces brightness into her voice. And thanks for the coffee. And the listening. That's what friends are for. Sarah pauses at the door. She'd be proud of you, for fighting so hard. The words follow Claire as she moves through the quiet stacks, straightening books with automatic precision. Pride isn't going to pay the bills or keep the lights on. She needs solutions, not sentiment. A distant rumble of thunder echoes through the high windows. Claire glances at her watch. 30 minutes until closing. The weather matches her mood, dark clouds gathering like the mounting pressure in her chest. The volunteer flyer catches her eye again as she passes the circulation desk. Her mother's voice seems to whisper from the shadows between the shelves. Stories heal, mi amor. They remind us we're not alone. Claire smooths the paper, decision crystallizing. Maybe it's time to share some healing of her own. Cham. The boardroom of Royce Corporation stretches before Gabriel like a battlefield, morning sunlight glinting off the polished mahogany table like armor. His brother Victor sits at the far end, Elena's manicured hand resting on his arm, a picture of corporate power and family unity. The image makes Gabriel's jaw clench. These numbers don't add up. Gabriel tosses the folder onto the table, watching it slide across the pristine surface. 3 million in unexplained transfers. Shell companies that lead nowhere. Care to explain? Victor's smile doesn't waver. Business is complex, little brother. Not everything fits into neat columns. Fraud usually doesn't. Gabriel meets Elena's cool gaze. Or embezzlement. Careful. Victor's tone hardens. Those are serious accusations. I have proof. Gabriel withdraws a flash drive from his pocket. Every transaction, every shell company, every. What you have, Elena cuts in smoothly, is a vivid imagination. The board won't appreciate these paranoid theories. Paranoid? Gabriel barks a laugh. The SEC won't find it paranoid. Neither will the press. Something dark flashes in Victor's eyes. Think carefully about your next move. Family loyalty means something. So does the law. The law. Victor stands buttoning his jacket with deliberate precision. Is often a matter of interpretation. Don't forget who taught you to play this game. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. Gabriel gathers his papers, anger burning cold in his chest. Meeting's adjourned, but this isn't over. No. Victor's smile returns, sharp as a blade. I don't suppose it is. The drive home gives Gabriel time to replay the confrontation, each word a fresh wound. Rain begins to fall, fat drops against the windshield matching his dark thoughts. The flash drive feels heavy in his pocket, weighted with evidence that could destroy everything his family built. Headlights appear in his rearview mirror. Too bright, too close. Gabriel frowns, adjusting his mirror. The truck behind him swerves, closing the distance. A horn blares, warning or threat, he can't tell. Gabriel's hands tighten on the wheel as the truck pulls alongside. Through the rain-streaked window, he catches a glimpse of the driver's face, expressionless behind dark glasses. The impact comes from the side, metal screaming against metal. Gabriel fights for control as his car spins, tires losing purchase on the wet road. The world tilts, glass shattering, and then darkness. White ceiling tiles swim into focus, their stark geometry the first clear thing Gabriel sees. Something beeps steadily nearby. The air smells of antiseptic and fear. Can you hear me? A nurse's face appears above him, her expression professional but kind. You're in West Cedar Grove Hospital. You've been in an accident. Gabriel tries to speak, but his throat feels raw. The nurse offers ice chips, her movements efficient. Can you tell me your name? The question should be simple. Gabriel reaches for the answer, but his thoughts scatter like startled birds. I don't. That's all right. The nurse makes a note on her tablet. The doctor will be in soon. You had quite a bump on the head. Gabriel's fingers find a bandage at his temple. Each movement feels strange, disconnected, as if he's piloting someone else's body. We found this with your belongings. The nurse holds up a gold watch, expensive and elegant. The initials GR are engraved on the back. Does it help you remember? The watch feels familiar in his hands, but the memory slips away before he can grasp it. Fragments flash through his mind, a long table, raised voices, the glint of headlights in rain, then vanish like smoke. Your admission bracelet lists you as John Doe, but we can't keep calling you that. The nurse's smile is gentle. Would you like to choose a name for now, until your memory returns? Gabriel studies the medical bracelet, its patient number starting with the letter A. Adam, he says, the word falling from his lips without thought. Call me Adam. The name feels wrong, like a coat that doesn't quite fit. But it's better than nothing, better than the emptiness where his identity should be. Nice to meet you, Adam. The nurse adjusts his IV. Try to rest. The doctor will check on you soon. Left alone, Adam now stares at the watch in his hands. The gold catches the fluorescent light, reflecting a stranger's face back at him. Somewhere in the hospital, monitors continue their steady beeping, marking time in a life he can't remember. The volunteer coordinator's office smells of coffee and fresh-baked cookies, a deliberate warmth that puts Claire at ease despite her nerves. Nancy Chen's enthusiasm radiates as she hands over the visitor badge and orientation packet. Most of our long-term patients don't get many visitors, Nancy explains, leading Claire through antiseptic scented halls. Having someone read to them, talk to them, it makes a world of difference. Claire clutches her worn copy of The Great Gatsby, chosen after hours of deliberation. The familiar weight steadies her as they pause outside room 412. Our John Doe. He goes by Adam now. Nancy's voice softens. Car accident victim, severe head trauma. No ID, no family coming forward. He could use a friendly face. The man in the hospital bed looks out of place among the institutional whites and grays. Something in his posture, even seated against pillows, suggests boardrooms rather than hospital rooms. His hands, resting on the blanket, bear the kind of calluses that come from gripping golf clubs rather than tools. Hi. Claire's voice comes out steadier than she expects. I'm Claire from the Library Volunteer Program. Would you mind some company? His eyes, startlingly blue, meet hers with a mix of wariness and curiosity. That depends. What are you reading? Claire holds up the book. Gatsby, though I'm open to suggestions if you'd prefer something else. No, that's a flash of something. Recognition, pain crosses his face. That's perfect, actually. She settles into the visitor's chair, noting how he tracks her movements with subtle attention. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. The words flow easily, filling the sterile room with Fitzgerald's golden prose. When she glances up during a pause, she finds Adam watching her with intense focus. You do the voices, he observes. Different inflections for different characters. Heat creeps into Claire's cheeks. Old habit from running children's story time. I can stop. No, the word comes quickly. It brings it alive, like memories taking shape. Something in his tone makes her lower the book. Do you remember reading it before? His brow furrows. There was a desk. Mahogany, I think. Someone was discussing Gatsby's pursuit of wealth, how it destroyed him, but he gestures vaguely, like trying to hold smoke. Claire marks their place with a scrap of paper. Must be frustrating, having pieces but not the whole picture. More like having a puzzle where half the pieces belong to a different box. A wry smile touches his lips. But this helps. The story you're reading, it feels like solid ground. The routine develops naturally over the next few weeks. Claire arrives with books and updates from the library's latest crisis, and Adam listens with genuine interest to her tales of fundraising attempts and community support. Local history section needs reorganizing, she explains one afternoon, sorting through a box of donated books she's brought to keep her hands busy while they talk. These might help if I can verify the dates and sources. The binding on this one's fairly recent. Adam examines a volume with surprising expertise. Late 90s, from the glue pattern. Probably not original source material. Claire adds another detail to her mental catalog of incongruities. The way he unconsciously adjusts his posture in the hospital bed, spine straight as if sitting at a conference table. How he analyzes each book's market value before its content. The occasional business terms that slip into his speech at odds with his claimed memories. You know a lot about book publishing for someone who can't remember his own name. His hands still on the volume. Muscle memory, maybe, like how I apparently still know how to use chopsticks, according to the nurse's observation. A shadow passes over his face, another fragment surfacing. Claire has learned to wait these moments out, letting him process without pressure. There was a library, he says finally. Dark wood, leather chairs. Someone important was very proud of first editions. But I can't. He presses his fingers to his temples. It slips away. Claire doesn't mean to notice the details that don't add up. The Italian leather wallet, empty of ID but expertly crafted. The way his hands automatically reach to adjust cufflinks that aren't there. The brief flash of recognition when a business news segment plays on the hospital TV, though he looks away too quickly to catch the headlines. The physical therapist mentioned you speak at least 3 languages, she remarks carefully, shelving returns in the hospital's small library cart. Apparently. Adam's smile doesn't quite reach his eyes, though I couldn't tell you where I learned them. And the watch. Claire hesitates. The gold timepiece sits on his bedside table, its weight clearly significant beyond its obvious value. GR. Adam traces the engraved initials, a whole identity reduced to 2 letters. Later, in the quiet of the library after closing, Claire finds herself typing various combinations into search engines. Gold watch, car accident, missing businessman. The results blur together. Too many wealthy men, too many accidents, too many possibilities. She closes the laptop, telling herself she's overstepping. He'll remember when he's ready, if he wants to. The dreams start like whispers, building to shouts that wake him in cold sweats. Dark rooms filled with sharp-suited figures, voices arguing about millions, billions, betrayals. The sound of rain on glass, headlights in mirrors, the screech of metal. You were calling out in your sleep again, the night nurse mentions, adjusting his monitors. Something about evidence, and someone named Victor. The name sends a chill through him, though he can't say why. He's grateful when Claire arrives the next morning, her presence pushing back the shadows of his fragmented memories. She reads him Steinbeck today, her voice painting pictures of dusty roads and desperate dreams. Adam finds himself watching her hands as they turn the pages, steady and sure. They ground him somehow, these daily visits, these shared stories. The library's heating system finally gave out, she mentions during a pause. Throat came in at $12,000. Have you considered municipal bonds for capital improvements? The words emerge without thought. Claire's eyebrows lift, and Adam feels that familiar vertigo of knowing something he shouldn't. I don't know why I know that. Maybe you were an accountant in your previous life, she teases, but her eyes are thoughtful. He almost wishes it were that simple. That's him? The private investigator's voice carries quietly down the hall as Adam pretends to sleep. Gabriel Royce matches the description. A nurse's voice, one he doesn't recognize. Been here almost a month, still no memory. And no visitors? Just the librarian. She reads to him, brings him books. Adam keeps his breathing steady, though his pulse quickens. Gabriel Royce. The name should mean something, should trigger some flood of recognition. Instead, it sits like a foreign object in his mind, refusing to connect. Through barely opened eyes, he catches a glimpse of the investigator speaking into a phone near his door. Complete amnesia. No sign he remembers. The evidence died with the accident. Each word lands like a stone in a deep well, sending ripples through his consciousness. Evidence. Accident. The fragments of his dreams suddenly feel sharper, more dangerous. He waits until the footsteps fade before opening his eyes fully. The hospital room seems smaller suddenly, its walls closer. The watch on his bedside table gleams accusingly. Gr. Gabriel Royce. When Claire arrives that afternoon, he finds himself studying her more carefully, wondering if she's part of whatever puzzle he's trapped in. But her smile is as genuine as ever as she pulls out their current book. You look tired, she observes, concern creasing her brow. Bad dreams. He manages a smile that feels wooden. Nothing worth noting. I feel like I'm being watched. The words slip out during their next reading session. Claire lowers East of Eden to meet his gaze. It's probably paranoia, but your instincts are telling you something. She marks their place with careful precision. Have you mentioned this to Dr. Roberts? And sound crazy on top of being amnesiac? Adam's laugh holds no humor. The nurses already whisper about my nightmares. Claire studies him with the same attention she gives her ancient manuscripts. You're being discharged next week. To where? The question emerges more sharply than intended. Sorry, everything beyond these walls feels overwhelming. He nods, grateful for her understanding. I have a spare room. The offer comes quietly but firmly. Above the library, it's small, and you'll have to tolerate the sound of the ancient heating system when it works. But it's private. Safe. Adam stares at her, searching for ulterior motives and finding only genuine concern. Claire, I couldn't. You can help with repairs. Her tone turns practical. You've already proved you know more about building maintenance than I do, even if you can't remember why. And having someone else in the building at night would make my insurance company happier. He should refuse. Every instinct tells him he's dangerous somehow, that the shadows in his dreams aren't just products of trauma. But the thought of facing the world alone, thank you. The words feel inadequate. I'll find a way to repay. We'll figure it out. Claire squeezes his hand briefly. That's what friends do. Neither of them notices the dark sedan parked across the street or the man inside reporting their conversation into an encrypted phone line. He's found a place to stay, the investigator tells Victor Royce. The local library. Perfect. Victor's voice crackles with satisfaction. Keep him under surveillance, but maintain distance. As long as he's playing small-town librarian, he's not a threat. And if he starts remembering, then we move to contingency plans. Victor's tone hardens. But for now, let's let little brother enjoy his simpler life. After all, isn't that what he always claimed to want? Something more meaningful than the family business. The line goes dead. In his hospital bed, Gabriel Royce, now known as Adam, drifts into uneasy sleep, dreaming of mahogany tables and betrayals he can't quite remember. Claire's ancient wall clock ticks past midnight as she arranges fresh linens in the library's spare room. The space is small but tidy, warmed by gleaming hardwood floors and a window that faces east. Perfect for watching sunrises, she thinks, smoothing a wrinkle from the bedspread. You really don't have to fuss. Adam, Gabriel, she reminds herself, stands in the doorway, hospital discharge papers clutched in one hand. Even in borrowed clothes from the hospital's donation bin, he carries himself with an unconscious grace that speaks of boardrooms rather than small-town libraries. It's no fuss. Claire adjusts a pillow, fighting the urge to apologize for the room's modest furnishings. Though I should warn you about the heating system. It has personality. As if on cue, the ancient radiator clanks to life, its pipes groaning like a tired ghost. Adam's lips twitch. Sounds haunted, only by the ghost of poor maintenance decisions. Claire's attempt at levity falls flat as she catches the shadow crossing his face. Another memory fragment, perhaps? She's learning to read these moments in the subtle shift of his expression, the way his eyes go distant. Sorry, He presses his fingers to his temples, a gesture she's come to recognize. There was a boardroom, I think. Someone complaining about maintenance costs, but it's... Smoke? Claire supplies gently. It's how he usually describes these flashes, like trying to grab smoke with bare hands. He nods, dropping his hand. Thank you for all of this. I know taking in a stranger with amnesia isn't exactly... You're not a stranger. The words come out fiercer than intended. You're my friend, and friends help each other. Something flickers in his eyes. Surprise, maybe gratitude. He moves to the window, his reflection ghosting against the dark glass. I keep thinking I should remember more by now. That something will click, and everything will make sense. Memory doesn't work like that. Claire joins him at the window, their reflections standing side by side in the glass. Dr. Roberts said it could take weeks, months, or never. The bitterness in his voice catches them both off guard. Or never, she acknowledges quietly. But you're not alone in this. Whatever happens. He turns from the window, studying her with an intensity that makes her pulse quicken. Why are you really helping me, Claire? Because you look lost, she wants to say. Because there's kindness beneath your confusion. Because something in me recognizes something in you. Instead, she gives him a slight smile. Because someone once helped my mother when she needed it. Sometimes that's all the reason we need. The radiator gives another dramatic groan, breaking the moment. Claire steps back, gesturing to the neat stack of books on the nightstand. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I brought a variety, and there's fresh coffee for morning in the kitchen downstairs. Claire, his voice stops her at the door. Thank you. Really. She nods, not trusting herself to speak, and heads down the narrow stairs to her own apartment. Sleep proves elusive as she listens to the quiet footsteps above, wondering what fragments of memory haunt his dreams. Morning brings a rhythm neither of them expected. Adam proves surprisingly adept at library maintenance, his hands somehow knowing which tools to reach for even when his mind can't explain why. Claire watches him replace a loose shelf bracket with practiced efficiency, his movements precise despite the borrowed work clothes. I think you've done this before, she observes, holding the shelf steady. Apparently. He tightens the last screw with expert care. Though I doubt it was in a setting quite like this. His gaze drifts to the library's soaring windows, where dust motes dance in streams of autumn sunlight. Claire follows his look, seeing the space through new eyes, the worn dignity of oak shelves, the gentle whisper of pages turned by unseen readers, the sense of history in every corner. Different from your dreams? The question slips out before she can stop it, his hands still on the screwdriver. The dreams are colder. All glass and steel and voices arguing about millions. He shakes his head, frustrated. Nothing solid enough to grab onto. Claire resists the urge to press further, knowing how these conversations usually end, with him withdrawn and tense, fighting shadows he can't quite name. Instead, she gestures to the pile of donations waiting to be sorted. Want to help me organize these? We can start with fiction, work our way through to reference. He nods, grateful for the distraction. They work in comfortable silence, the familiar task of sorting books creating its own meditation. Claire notices how he automatically checks bindings for wear, assessing market value with unconscious expertise, another piece of his past hiding in plain sight. Woman's voice, he says suddenly, making her jump. In the dreams. She keeps yelling, "You'll regret this," but I can't see her face. Claire sets down the book she's holding, giving him her full attention. What else? A man slamming a folder onto this massive table. Polished mahogany, I think. His voice turns distant. Everything's so fragmented, like watching a movie with most of the scenes missing. But they're coming more frequently? She keeps her tone neutral, though her heart races at this new detail. He nods slowly. Especially at night. Sometimes I wake up convinced I know who I am, but then his gesture encompasses the library, the borrowed clothes, the life that doesn't quite fit. Reality hits. Claire touches his arm gently. This is reality too. Whatever your past holds, what you're doing here, helping people, making a difference, that's real. Is it enough? The question hangs between them, heavy with unspoken weight. Before she can answer, the radiator gives its now familiar groan. Adam's lips quirk in what might be a smile. At least the ghost is consistent. Claire laughs, the tension breaking. Come on, I'll teach you how to sweet-talk it into behaving. Sometimes old things just need a little patience. She pretends not to notice how his eyes linger on her as she leads the way to the basement, or how her skin tingles where his hand brushed hers passing books. Some questions, she's learning, are better left unasked. What matters is the present, the solid weight of books in their hands, the quiet companionship of shared work, the way he's slowly beginning to smile more. The past, with all its shadows, can wait. But as Claire helps him wrestle with the temperamental heating system, she can't shake the feeling that somewhere, in the gaps between his memories, danger waits like a coiled spring, ready to strike the moment they least expect it. She only prays they'll be ready when it does. The bank card surfaces on a Tuesday, tucked into the lining of his hospital bag like a paper-thin grenade. Claire watches Adam turn it over in his hands, the black metal gleaming with understated wealth. It was in there the whole time? She peers at the card's smooth surface, where only his initials are engraved in elegant script. Apparently, his voice holds that careful neutrality she's come to recognize, the tone he uses when trying to hide how much something rattles him. There was something when I touched it. A memory, maybe. Claire leans forward in her chair, the library's afternoon quiet wrapping around them like a cocoon. What kind of memory? A briefcase. His eyes go distant, chasing the image. Full of cards like this one. Someone was explaining something about offshore accounts, but it's... He makes that familiar gesture of smoke slipping through fingers. We could try it, Claire suggests carefully. The ATM at Cedar Grove Bank is private, tucked away from the street. Adam's fingers tighten on the card. What if it triggers something? What if I remember something I don't want to? The fear in his voice makes her heart ache. Then we'll deal with it together, like we have been. He studies her face for a long moment, as if searching for something. Whatever he sees there must reassure him, because he nods slowly. Together. The walk to the bank feels longer than usual, autumn wind whipping leaves around their feet. Claire watches Adam's profile as they approach the ATM, noting the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers twist the card like a worry stone. The machine accepts the card without hesitation. Adam's hands hover over the keypad, then move with sudden certainty, muscle memory taking over. Claire holds her breath as the screen processes his request. The number that appears makes her gasp. That's, she blinks, counting zeros. That's millions. 7,400,000, exactly. Adam's voice sounds strange, detached. I knew the PIN. Why did I know the PIN? Before Claire can respond, he sways slightly, pressing a hand to his temple. She steadies him with a hand on his arm, feeling the tremors running through him. Another memory? He nods, eyes squeezed shut. A woman, dark hair, expensive perfume, saying something about contingency plans and keeping it quiet, but her face... He makes a frustrated sound. It's like looking through frosted glass. Claire guides him to a nearby bench, trying to process the implications of what they've discovered. $7 million, a fortune that raises more questions than it answers. What do we do now? She asks softly. Adam stares at the bank card, its surface catching the late afternoon sun. We wait. Whoever put this money aside, they'll be watching for activity. You think someone's monitoring the account? I know they are. The certainty in his voice sends a chill down her spine. The question is, what will they do now that they know I've found it? As if in answer, a dark sedan cruises slowly past the bank, its tinted windows reflecting the autumn sky. Claire feels Adam tense beside her, his instincts responding to a threat his mind can't quite remember. They walk back to the library in silence, both lost in thought. The bank card burns in Adam's pocket like a signal flare, announcing his presence to shadows neither of them can see. Above them, storm clouds gather, matching the darkness in Claire's heart. She's always believed in helping others, in the power of kindness to heal. But now, watching Adam disappear up the stairs to his room, she wonders if some mysteries are better left buried. The radiator clanks to life, its familiar ghost song offering no comfort tonight. Somewhere in the city, she knows, wheels are turning. Plans are being set in motion, and the quiet life they've built together suddenly feels as fragile as autumn leaves in the wind. In a sleek, high-rise office 40 stories above Manhattan, Victor Royce studies his laptop screen with predatory focus. The notification from Gabriel's private account glows accusingly. Access detected. Cedar Grove branch. He's remembering. Alina's voice carries from the doorway, sharp as broken glass. We need to handle this. Victor leans back in his leather chair, fingers steepled. Now, let's not be hasty. One bank transaction doesn't mean... He accessed the emergency account, Victor. Elena's heels click against marble as she approaches his desk. The one he set up after he started investigating us. What do you think that means? It means we watch. We wait. Victor's smile doesn't reach his eyes. After all, what can he prove? The evidence died in that crash along with his memory. Elena's perfectly manicured nails drum against the desk's polished surface. And if he starts remembering more, then we remind him why forgetting was the safer choice. Victor turns back to his laptop, dismissing her. Have our people in Cedar Grove keep their distance. For now, let's let my dear brother play at his small-town redemption. The office falls silent, save for the soft hum of electronics and the distant wail of sirens far below. In the gathering dusk, Manhattan's lights begin to twinkle like cold stars, indifferent to the drama unfolding in their glow. Claire finds the letter 3 days later, its crisp white envelope stark against the library's welcome mat. No stamp, no postmark, hand-delivered in the night like a whispered threat. Her hands shake slightly as she reads the typed message. Stop digging. The past is better left buried. Your location has been noted. This is your only warning. The paper feels expensive between her fingers, heavy with implied menace. She stands in the morning silence, heart pounding, as footsteps sound on the stairs behind her. Claire? Adam's voice carries concern. Everything all right? She turns, letter clutched in her hand, and watches his expression shift from worry to understanding. Without a word, he holds out his hand for the paper. His face remains carefully neutral as he reads, but Claire catches the slight tremor in his fingers, the way his jaw tightens. When he looks up, his eyes hold a mixture of fear and determination she's never seen before. I should leave. The words fall between them like stones. You're not safe while I'm here. No. Claire's response comes fierce and immediate. This letter isn't a reason to run. It's proof we're getting close to something they don't want you to remember. And that doesn't frighten you? She meets his gaze steadily. Of course it does, but I'm more frightened of letting them win, of watching you disappear into fog again. Adam studies her face, something soft and wondering crossing his expression. You're remarkable, you know that? Heat creeps into Claire's cheeks. I'm just stubborn. Mom always said it was my best and worst quality. Your mother sounds wise. He carefully folds the letter, tucking it into his pocket. So what do we do? Claire moves to her desk, pulling out a notebook. We analyze. The paper quality, the typing style, any clues about where it came from. Knowledge is power, right? A ghost of a smile touches his lips. That sounds familiar somehow. They spend the morning examining the letter, Claire's librarian training proving surprisingly useful for forensic analysis. She notes the watermark, the precise spacing of the typeface, every detail that might help identify its origin. Adam watches her work with growing admiration. You're good at this. The systematic approach, the attention to detail. Books teach you a lot about solving mysteries. Claire makes another note, and about human nature. People leave traces of themselves in everything they create, even threats. As if summoned by her words, another memory seems to strike him. Claire recognizes the distant look in his eyes, the slight tensing of his shoulders. What is it? A woman's voice again, saying something about traces, evidence. He presses his fingers to his temples. She was worried about something being found. Papers, maybe files. Claire sets down her pen. The same woman from your dreams? I think so. But there's more this time. She was arguing with someone. A man. They were. He trails off, frustration evident in every line of his body. It's okay. Claire touches his hand gently. Each piece helps build the picture. We just have to be patient. Adam turns his hand to catch hers, the contact sending warmth spiraling through her chest. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never. The word comes out softer than intended, heavy with meaning neither of them is ready to explore. Outside, autumn wind rattles the library's windows, carrying the scent of approaching rain. Claire thinks about the letter in Adam's pocket, about the shadows gathering around them like storm clouds. But here in the library's quiet sanctuary, his hand warm in hers, she feels strangely, fiercely hopeful. Whatever comes next, they'll face it together. The radiator gives its familiar groan, a reminder that some things remain constant, even as others shift like sand. Claire squeezes Adam's hand once before returning to her notes. They have work to do. And somewhere in the fog of his memories, answers wait to be found. Let them send their threats. She's never been one to back down from a fight, especially not when it matters most. The rain begins to fall, drumming against the windows like nature's own warning. But inside, surrounded by books and shared purpose, Claire feels stronger than any storm. They will solve this puzzle, piece by shattered piece. And maybe, just maybe, they'll both find something they didn't know they were looking for along the way. The truck appears without warning, its headlights cutting through evening drizzle as Claire and Adam walk back from the grocery store. Adam freezes mid-sentence, grocery bags slipping from suddenly nerveless fingers. Oranges spill across wet pavement, rolling like bright omens into gathering shadows. Adam? Claire steadies him as he sways, his face draining of color. What's wrong? Rain. His voice comes distant, strained. It was raining that night. Headlights in my mirror getting closer. He presses his hands to his temples, grocery bags forgotten at their feet. A phone call, Victor's face on the screen. He was warning me, no, threatening me about the evidence. Claire guides him to a nearby bench, shielding him from the strengthening rain with her body. Take it slow. What evidence? Files, documents proving. Adam's breath comes in sharp gasps. The embezzlement, shell companies. Victor and Elena, they were stealing millions. I had proof. His eyes snap to Claire's face, suddenly sharp with recognition. The truck wasn't an accident. They tried to kill me. The rain falls harder now, but neither of them moves. Claire watches emotions war across Adam's face, fear, rage, grief, as more pieces click into place. Victor's face, he continues, words tumbling out like water breaking through a dam. Right before the crash, we'd argued in the boardroom. He said I needed to think carefully about family loyalty, but I had the flash drive. His hand moves unconsciously to his chest, as if feeling for something that's no longer there. All the evidence was on it. The accident would have destroyed it, Claire realizes, rain dripping from her hair unnoticed. Perfect way to eliminate both threats at once. Adam's laugh holds no humor. And when I survived without my memory, they must have thought Christmas had come early. He stands abruptly, pacing the wet sidewalk. I have to stop them. They're still out there, still stealing, still... We'll stop them, Claire corrects firmly, gathering their scattered groceries. But first, we need to get you somewhere dry before you catch pneumonia on top of everything else. He stares at her, rain streaming down his face. How can you be so calm about this? Because one of us needs to be. She holds out his grocery bag, a silent reminder of the life they've built here. And because now we know what we're fighting. Knowledge is power, remember? Something shifts in his expression, gratitude, maybe, or something deeper. He takes the bag, their fingers brushing. I don't deserve you. Good thing that's not for you to decide. Claire starts walking, knowing he'll follow. Come on, we'll make hot chocolate and start planning our next move. Behind them, the truck that triggered his memory disappears around a corner, its headlights fading like ghosts in the rain. Mental instability runs in families, you know. Elena's voice carries clearly through the speakerphone in Victor's office. Such a shame about poor Gabriel's paranoid episodes before the accident. Victor signs another document with practiced efficiency, watching his computer screen as carefully crafted emails disperse through Royce Corporation's board member list. The concerned sister-in-law act suits you, Alina. Very convincing. Years of practice. Her laugh sparkles with artificial warmth. How are our friends at the Psychiatric Association responding? Quite sympathetically. Victor forwards another email, this one detailing Gabriel's supposed history of erratic behavior and delusional accusations. Amazing what people will believe when it comes from seemingly credible sources. And the board? Already expressing their relief that he wasn't in charge when these episodes began. Victor allows himself a small smile. By the time he tries to reclaim his position, if he ever remembers enough to try, his credibility will be thoroughly destroyed. Elena's satisfaction practically radiates through the phone. Perfect. And our little librarian friend? Leave her for now. Victor studies the latest surveillance photo from Cedar Grove, showing Claire and Gabriel walking through falling rain. She's harmless, a small town nobody playing nurse to our amnesiac brother. You're getting soft, Victor. Hardly. He closes the surveillance file. I'm being strategic. The more comfortable they feel, the less likely they are to dig deeper. Besides, he pauses, considering. Having someone to lose might make Gabriel easier to control if it comes to that. The threat hangs in air-conditioned silence. Outside Victor's window, Manhattan's lights blur in the rain, a mirror of the scene unfolding hundreds of miles away in Cedar Grove. Keep our people in place, he instructs, straightening his tie in the window's reflection. But maintain distance. For now, we let the rumors do our work for us. And if they don't? Elena's voice holds an edge of steel. Then we remind my brother that some memories are better left forgotten. Victor ends the call, turning back to his computer. Another email arrives, a board member expressing concerns about Gabriel's mental state, wondering if there should be a formal competency evaluation before any potential return to the company. Victor forwards it with a practiced expression of familial concern, his words dripping with false worry about his brother's well-being. The pieces fall into place like dominoes, each carefully planted story building on the last. Let Gabriel play house with his librarian, he thinks, watching rain streak down his office windows. The higher he builds his new life, the farther he'll fall when it all comes crashing down. And this time, Victor will make sure his brother stays down for good. Claire's fingers hover over the library's ancient keyboard, her breath caught in her throat as she stares at the email draft on Gabriel's phone. The subject line glows accusingly in the dim light. Urgent. Board meeting evidence. I found it while checking old messages, Gabriel says from the chair beside her desk. His voice carries that particular tension she's learned to recognize, the strain of memories fighting to surface. The draft is incomplete, but Claire skims the partially written text, her librarian's eye cataloging every detail. Numbers blur past millions, then billions. References to offshore accounts spiral across the screen like a web of shadows. Each line reveals more about the man sitting beside her, the truth of who he was before the accident. Your brother, she says carefully. Victor Royce. He was using shell companies to hide money. Gabriel's hands clench on the armrests. And Elena, my sister-in-law. The names emerge like splinters working their way free. They were embezzling funds, manipulating stock prices. I spent months tracking the evidence. Claire sets the phone down with deliberate care, her mind already racing through possibilities. We should back this up immediately. If they're monitoring your accounts, they could delete it remotely. Gabriel's business instincts surface through the amnesia, sharp and certain. Do you have a secure drive? Claire pulls open her desk drawer, pushing aside rubber bands and paper clips until her fingers find the small flash drive she uses for backing up rare book catalogs. It's not fancy, but it's clean. No network access. She works quickly, muscle memory from years of data preservation taking over. The email draft copies over, along with its attachments, spreadsheets, transaction records, board meeting minutes. Each file feels like handling live ammunition. I remember staying late at the office, Gabriel says suddenly. His gaze fixes on some point beyond the library's walls. Night after night, piecing it together. The cleaning staff thought I was just another workaholic executive, but I was building a case. I knew, he presses his fingers to his temples, I knew they'd try to stop me if they found out. Claire watches his reflection in the darkened computer screen, cataloging the micro-expressions that cross his face. The stern set of his jaw belongs to a boardroom warrior, not the quiet handyman who spent the last weeks helping her repair leaky pipes. We should look deeper, she says, reaching for her laptop. If your family's involved in something this big, there might be news coverage, previous incidents. Gabriel's hand catches her wrist, gentle but urgent. Claire, this is dangerous. These people, my family, they arranged a car accident to silence me. If they realize you're helping, they already know I'm helping. She meets his gaze steadily. I'm the one who gave you a place to stay, remember? And I'm not stopping now. His grip loosens, but his concern remains palpable. Why? Why risk everything for a stranger's fight? Because it's the right thing to do. Claire opens her laptop, the screen casting blue light across her determined expression. And because you're not a stranger anymore. Research comes as naturally to Claire as breathing. Years of tracking down obscure references and cross-referencing sources guide her through financial news archives and in corporate records. Gabriel watches as she builds a digital timeline, each article adding another piece to the puzzle of his past. Royce Corporation whistleblower case dismissed, she reads aloud. 3 years ago, the witness mysteriously recanted their testimony. Her finger traces down the screen. And here, a series of controversial construction contracts, environmental violations swept under the rug, political donations that, she frowns, that don't quite add up. They're good at covering their tracks, Gabriel mutters. I remember that much. But not good enough. Claire clicks through to another article. Look at this name, Sophia Royce, your sister? Gabriel leans forward, something flickering in his eyes. Yes, she was on the board. Until she publicly opposed a major development deal. Claire skims the article. She was removed from her position shortly after. Official reason, personal leave of absence. Sophia. Gabriel's voice carries a weight of recognition. She tried to warn me. The memory hits like a thunderbolt, sharp and clear against the fog of amnesia. A private office, late evening light slanting through floor-to-ceiling windows. Sophia's face tight with worry as she closed the door behind her. They know what you're doing, Gabriel. Her voice echoes across time. Victor and Elena, they know you're gathering evidence. You need to be careful. More careful than you've ever been. In the memory, he's standing behind a mahogany desk, documents spread before him like battle plans. I can't stop now, Sophia. The evidence is there. They're going to destroy everything our parents built. I'm not telling you to stop. Sophia moves closer, her designer heels silent on the plush carpet. I'm telling you to survive. I've been running interference, making excuses for your late nights, your questions, but they're getting suspicious. She reaches into her handbag, withdraws a small USB drive. Take this. It's everything I've managed to document over the years. Bank transfers, deleted emails, recordings of conversations they thought I was too naive to understand. The weight of the drive in his palm feels like a live coal. You've been investigating them too. Someone had to. Sophia's smile is bitter. The quiet little sister, always in the background at board meetings. They never thought I was paying attention. The memory fractures there, splintering into fragments of rain and headlights and screaming metal. Gabriel surfaces with a gasp, his hands gripping the edge of Claire's desk. Sophia gave me a drive, he manages. Before the accident, she'd been gathering her own evidence, working in secret to protect me. Claire's fingers still on her keyboard. Do you remember what happened to it? No. Frustration edges his voice. Everything after that conversation is broken, pieces that don't connect. But now we know she's an ally. Claire turns to face him fully. And we know there's more evidence out there somewhere. Gabriel stares at his hands, as if they might still hold the phantom weight of that USB drive. They tried to kill me to keep this quiet. All these months letting me live only because they thought the amnesia was real, that I'd never remember. But you did remember. Claire's voice carries steel beneath its warmth. And now we have proof. Your email draft, these articles, the possibility of Sophia's evidence. We can bring them down. It's not that simple. Gabriel pushes back from the desk, tension radiating from his shoulders. Victor and Elena have connections everywhere. Judges, politicians, journalists. Why do you think that whistleblower case was dismissed? Then we'll be smarter. Claire stands, her small frame somehow filling the space with conviction. We'll gather everything we can. Build an airtight case. Find a way to make it public that they can't control or suppress. They could hurt you. The words emerge rough with fear. The library, your life here. They could destroy it all. They could, Claire agrees calmly, but they won't, because we're not going to let them. Gabriel looks at her, really looks at her, seeing past the cardigans and sensible shoes to the steel underneath. This quiet librarian who offered him shelter without question, who pieces together fragments of truth like chapters in a story, who faces the possibility of danger with the same steady resolve she brings to overdue book notices and broken heating systems. We'll need to be careful, he says finally. Strategic. If we're going to do this, we'll do it right. Claire picks up her notebook, ever the organizer. First step, backing up everything we've found so far. Second, finding a secure way to contact Sophia. And third, Claire's smile carries echoes of her mother's determination. Third, we remind your family that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones they underestimate. Outside the library's windows, afternoon light paints the world in shades of amber and shadow. Inside, two unlikely allies begin plotting the downfall of an empire, armed with nothing but truth and the quiet strength of those who have nothing left to lose. Gabriel watches Claire methodically organizing their evidence, her movements precise as a curator handling precious artifacts. In the golden light, she looks like something from another world, a world where integrity still matters, where David can still triumph over Goliath. He thinks of boardrooms and betrayals, of family dinners that felt like negotiating truces, of Sophia's quiet resistance and his own dogged pursuit of justice, of how fate or chance brought him here, to this small-town library with its creaking floors and fierce guardian. Claire, he says softly. She looks up, pen poised over her notebook. Thank you for believing in me, for helping me remember who I am. Her smile warms the gathering shadows. That's what friends do. Now let's figure out how to contact your sister without tipping off the rest of your family. Outside, a car pulls away from the curb, a dark sedan with tinted windows. Inside, a man speaks into an encrypted phone line. He's remembering, the investigator reports. And the librarian, she's helping him piece it together. Victor Royce's voice crackles through the secure connection. Then perhaps it's time we reminded my little brother why some memories are better left buried. But in the library's warm light, Gabriel and Claire continue their work, unaware that the next move in this dangerous game is already in motion. They have truth on their side, and sometimes that's enough to change everything. Claire spreads their evidence across her desk the next morning, sunrise painting the papers in shades of gold and promise. Sticky notes mark key documents, the email draft, news clippings, financial records that don't quite add up. She's arranged them chronologically, a timeline of corruption and betrayal. Gabriel paces behind her, his movements carrying the restless energy of a caged predator. I need to confront them. He says, not for the first time. Walk into that boardroom and what? Claire interrupts, her tone gentle but firm. Give them a chance to finish what they started. She taps the article about the dismissed whistleblower case. We need more than accusations. We need proof that will stick. Gabriel's jaw tightens. The USB drive Sophia gave me could be anywhere. Claire pulls her cardigan closer, fighting the morning chill. The ancient heating system groans in sympathy. We need to focus on what we can control, the evidence we have, the allies we can trust. Sophia? Gabriel stops pacing, his expression softening at his sister's name. But reaching out to her could put her at risk, Claire finishes. I know, but she's already chosen her side in this fight, and we need her help. Gabriel sinks into the chair across from her desk, his posture a strange blend of CEO authority and raw vulnerability. They're probably monitoring her too, her phone, email, everything. Claire's mind races through possibilities, years of helping patrons navigate research challenges clicking into place. What about the society pages? Those charity galas your family's always attending? Public events. Gabriel nods slowly. Harder to control who shows up, who talks to whom. And next week. Claire types rapidly, pulling up a local news site. The Cedar Grove Hospital fundraiser. Black tie, silent auction. Your family's corporation is listed as a major donor. They wouldn't expect me there. A spark of the strategist he once was lights Gabriel's eyes. Not in my current state. And Sophia always attends the medical charity events. It was our mother's passion. Claire allows herself a small smile. I might know someone on the organizing committee, the hospital's volunteer coordinator. It's still dangerous. Gabriel leans forward, his voice dropping. Claire, if anything happened to you, nothing will happen. She meets his gaze steadily, because we're going to be smart about this. Careful. And we're going to remember that sometimes the best place to hide is in plain sight. Gabriel studies her face, searching for any hint of doubt or fear. Finding none, he nods slowly. We'll need formal wear. Security will be tight, and anything less than perfect will draw attention. Leave that to me. Claire's smile widens slightly. You'd be amazed what connections a small-town librarian can call in when needed. Outside, early morning traffic picks up along Main Street. Inside, Claire and Gabriel continue plotting their next moves like generals before a battle, armed with truth and determination. The library holds its breath around them, its walls keeping their secrets safe for now. But time is running out. Somewhere in a high-rise office, Victor and Elena Royce are moving pieces on their own board, unaware that their carefully constructed world of privilege and corruption is about to face its greatest threat. A brother who remembers too much, and a librarian who refuses to look away from the truth. Claire makes one final note in her precise handwriting. Contact Nancy, re-fundraiser tickets. Such a small thing, really. But sometimes the smallest actions can trigger avalanches. Gabriel watches her write, his expression settling into resolved determination. They have a plan now. A dangerous one, perhaps, but also their best chance at justice. Ready? Claire asks, closing her notebook. Gabriel straightens his shoulders, and for a moment she sees both versions of him, the powerful CEO he was, and the man who's become her friend. Ready. The library's ancient clock chimes 9, marking the start of another day. But this day is different. This day they stop reacting and start fighting back. Claire's fingers hover over the keyboard as she rereads Sophia's cryptic email for the 10th time. The message sits in a secure account they created specifically for this purpose. Its words carefully chosen to seem innocuous to anyone monitoring their communications. Found those old family photos you asked about? Sophia wrote. Let's meet at Johnny's Diner tomorrow at 2 p.m. to look through them together. Gabriel, she still thinks of him as Adam sometimes, the name lingering like an echo, paces behind her desk at the library, his restored memories making him more CEO than handyman with each passing day. His Italian leather shoes, recently retrieved from a safety deposit box, click against the hardwood floors in a steady rhythm. She's taking an enormous risk, he says, running a hand through his carefully styled hair. If Victor finds out, he won't. Claire closes the laptop with quiet determination. Your sister knows what she's doing. She's survived this long in your family's world, hasn't she? Gabriel's laugh holds no humor. By playing the dutiful younger sister who poses no threat. This is different. The library's ancient heating system groans overhead, a sound Claire barely notices anymore but makes Gabriel glance up with professional disapproval. She catches the familiar calculation in his eyes. Cost analysis, ROI, the instincts of a businessman emerging from beneath the amnesia like spring buds after winter. Stop calculating repair costs and focus, she chides gently. What exactly are we looking for in these family photos? Bank statements, board minutes, anything showing the money trail between Victor's shell companies and the offshore accounts. Gabriel's voice drops lower, though they're alone in the building. Sophia hinted she found proof of Elena's involvement, too. Claire checks her watch, an inexpensive but reliable Timex that feels increasingly out of place next to Gabriel's restored Rolex. We should head to the diner. Better to arrive early, scope out the situation. The drive to Johnny's Diner takes them through Cedar Grove's modest downtown. Claire watches Gabriel catalog the changes since his last visit. New awnings on the bakery, fresh paint on the hardware store's facade. He's different here than in the hospital, more alert, his fingers drumming against the car door in an executive's impatient rhythm. They park a block away from the diner. Gabriel's restored instincts for security shaping their approach. Through the windows, Claire spots a woman in an elegantly tailored blazer, sitting alone in a corner booth, her posture a mirror image of Gabriel's. "Sophia," Gabriel confirms softly. His hand finds Claire's briefly, squeezing once before letting go. "Ready?" The bell above the door chimes as they enter. Sophia Royce looks up, her features schooled into casual indifference that doesn't quite mask the tension around her eyes. She stands to hug Gabriel, a gesture that looks natural enough to any observers, but allows her to slip something into his jacket pocket. "Little brother." Sophia's voice carries just the right note of warm familiarity. "And this must be Claire. I've heard so much about you." They settle into the booth, ordering coffee they won't drink. Sophia chatters about harmless family gossip while her manicured fingers tap a subtle pattern on the table's surface. Claire recognizes it as Morse code, though she can't read it. Gabriel's expression doesn't change, but his shoulders tighten incrementally. When the waitress steps away, Sophia's voice drops to barely above a whisper. "The folder in your pocket contains everything we discussed. Bank statements, transfer records, highs, copies of Elena's personal emails to the Cayman accounts. But there's more." Her perfectly painted lips barely move. Victor's gotten sloppy, paranoid. He's starting to make mistakes. Gabriel's hand slips into his pocket, fingertips brushing the folder's edge. "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that get people killed." Sophia stirs her untouched coffee. "He's convinced you remember everything, that you're plotting against him. Elena's trying to calm him down, but..." She shakes her head minutely. "You need to move fast, before he does." Claire feels the weight of unspoken threats settling around them like dust. She thinks of her library, of the quiet sanctuary it provides, of all the lives tangled in this web of corporate intrigue. Her hand finds Gabriel's knee under the table, steadying him as much as herself. "We'll handle it," she promises Sophia, her voice carrying the same quiet conviction that's kept the library's doors open against impossible odds. "Together." Sophia's carefully controlled expression cracks just slightly, revealing a flash of genuine emotion. "Take care of him," she murmurs to Claire. Then, louder, "I should go. Don't want to miss my spa appointment." They watch her leave, her heels clicking against the diner's linoleum floor with precise determination. Gabriel waits exactly 3 minutes before standing, leaving enough cash on the table to cover their untouched drinks and a generous tip. Back at the library, Claire spreads the contents of Sophia's folder across her desk while Gabriel secures the building. The documents tell a story in numbers and footnotes, in carefully hidden transactions and cleverly disguised transfers. She cross-references dates with public records, with old newspaper articles about Royce Corporation's charitable donations and expansion plans. "Here." She taps a quarterly earnings report, excitement coloring her voice. "Look at the discrepancy between the reported charitable contributions and the actual transfers. The shell company Victor used." Her finger traces the connection through 3 different documents. It's the same pattern every time. Gabriel leans over her shoulder, his breath warm against her ear as he studies the evidence. "You're brilliant," he murmurs, and she feels the words vibrate through her. "This is exactly what we need. With this pattern established." The library's front door chimes. Claire looks up sharply. They'd locked it. She's sure they had. Gabriel's hand settles on her shoulder, a gesture that could appear casual but carries the weight of protection. Heavy footsteps echo through the stacks, unhurried and deliberate. A man appears in the doorway of Claire's office, his contractor's uniform just a little too clean, too new. "Miss Whitmore?" His smile doesn't reach his eyes. "I heard you've been having some heating problems. Thought I'd stop by. Take a look." Claire feels Gabriel's fingers tighten on her shoulder. "We haven't called any contractors," she says, keeping her voice steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. "No?" The man steps closer, running his hand along the edge of her desk. Shame about these old buildings. So many things can go wrong. Electrical fires, gas leaks. His gaze settles on the scattered documents. Accidents happen all the time to people who stick their noses where they don't belong. Gabriel starts to move forward, but Claire catches his wrist. Starting a fight here now would only prove Victor's suspicions correct. "Thank you for your concern," she says firmly, standing to her full height. "But we already have a contractor we trust. I'll have to ask you to leave." "Of course." The man's smile widens fractionally. Just trying to help, though you might want to consider your position carefully, Miss Whitmore. I'd hate to see anything happen to this lovely library. All that history, all those irreplaceable books. He shrugs. Would be a terrible loss to the community. He turns to go, his footsteps echoing through the stacks like distant thunder. Claire waits until she hears the front door close before her knees give out, sending her back into her chair. Gabriel's hands find her shoulders, steadying her. Claire, he starts, his voice rough with barely contained rage. I can't let you. Don't. She covers one of his hands with her own, drawing strength from the contact. Don't you dare try to noble your way out of this now. They threatened you. The library. Everything you've built is already at risk. Claire turns to face him, her eyes blazing with the same determination that's kept the library's doors open against impossible odds. Every day I watch this place slip a little further into debt. Every day I wonder if this will be the day I have to admit defeat, to let my mother's legacy crumble. She gestures to the scattered documents. But this is something we can fight, something we can make right. Gabriel stares at her, something shifting in his expression. Claire, your brother, Elena, they're not just stealing money. They're stealing futures, dreams. How many lives have they destroyed with their schemes? She stands again, stronger now. How many more will they hurt if no one stands up to them? It's not your fight. The hell it isn't. Claire's voice carries the weight of every late night spent balancing books, every grant application rejected, every child who found sanctuary among her shelves. You came here broken, looking for safety. I gave you that. Now you're whole again, and you want to run away to protect me? She shakes her head. That's not how this works. That's not who we are. Gabriel's resistance crumbles visibly, like watching a wall give way to spring floods. He pulls her close, burying his face in her hair. I can't lose you, he whispers, the words barely audible. You won't. Claire's arms tighten around him. But we're going to stop them. Together. Because that's what family does. Real family, not the kind that threatens and betrays. They stand like that for a long moment, holding each other while dust motes dance in the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the library's windows. Outside, the world continues its steady rhythm. Cars passing, people walking by, lives untouched by the drama unfolding within these walls. Finally, Gabriel pulls back just enough to meet her eyes. The next board meeting is in 3 days, he says quietly. I'll need to prepare, gather supporters quietly. Then we'd better get to work. Claire turns back to the scattered documents, her librarian's instinct for organization already cataloging and connecting the pieces. We have a corporation to save. As they bend over the evidence together, Claire silently thanks her mother for teaching her that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple choice to stand firm, to fight back, to believe in the power of truth and justice, even when the odds seem impossible. The library's old heating system groans overhead, a familiar sound of perseverance against time and decay. Claire smiles slightly, remembering all the times she's refused to let this place fall. Now it's time to help Gabriel do the same with his family's legacy. Together, they begin to plan. Papers scatter across the library's study room table as Gabriel arranges financial statements and corporate documents into precise stacks. The grandfather clock in the corner ticks past midnight, its steady rhythm matching Claire's heartbeat as she watches him prepare for tomorrow's confrontation. The whistleblower reports align perfectly with the offshore accounts. Gabriel's voice carries the authority of his former life, though his hands betray a slight tremor as he sorts another stack. Victor won't be able to deny the pattern once the board sees these numbers. Claire studies his profile in the lamplight, noting the tension in his jaw. Tell them about the accident, too. Make them understand what's at stake. They need facts, not sentiment. Gabriel straightens another pile with mechanical precision. They need both. Claire moves closer, her hand hovering over the stack of documents. Your story proves how far Victor and Elena will go to protect their schemes. It makes the numbers real. Gabriel's fingers still on the papers. In the quiet of the empty library, Claire can almost hear him wrestling with the vulnerability her suggestion requires. Finally, he nods. You're right. I'll add it to the presentation. The clock chimes 1, the sound echoing through the stacks. Claire should feel exhausted after a full day of running the library, followed by hours of preparation, but adrenaline keeps her alert. I'm going to check the archives one more time. There might be something we missed. Claire. Gabriel catches her wrist as she turns to go, his touch gentle but urgent. You don't have to do this. Victor's reach is long, and once I make these accusations public, I'm already involved. She meets his gaze steadily, and I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Something flickers in his eyes. Fear, perhaps, or wonder at her determination. He releases her wrist slowly, fingers trailing across her palm. Be careful in the basement. The lighting's unreliable. Claire descends the narrow stairs to the archives, flashlight beam dancing across shelves of local records. The musty scent of old paper fills her lungs as she navigates the cramped space. Her mother's meticulous organization system guides her to the business section, where decades of corporate filings rest in acid-free boxes. The beam catches a familiar logo, Royce Corporation's distinctive R embossed on a leather folder. Claire eases it from the shelf, disturbing a cloud of dust. Inside, yellowed papers chronicle the company's local ventures, property purchases, charitable donations, development projects. Her fingers freeze on a contract dated 15 years ago. The signature at the bottom belongs to Victor Royce, but it's the routing number in the payment details that snags her attention. She's seen that number before, buried in the evidence Gabriel's sister provided. A shell company account used to launder embezzled funds. Oh my God. Claire's whisper dissipates in the archive's silence. This proves Victor's involvement predates Gabriel's accident by years. It wasn't a one-time transgression, but a systematic betrayal. She takes the stairs 2 at a time, document clutched to her chest. Gabriel looks up at her rushed entrance, reading the urgency in her expression. Found something. Claire spreads the contract on the table. Look at the payment details. It's the same account that Sophia traced to the Cayman Islands. Gabriel's finger traces the routing number. This was Victor's project. He signed off personally. A harsh laugh escapes him. He can't claim ignorance now. He can't pretend Elena masterminded everything while he looked the other way. Claire watches understanding ripple across his features. This is the proof you needed. This is everything. He straightens, decision crystallizing in his stance. The board meets at 9. I'll need to move quickly to... A distant crash interrupts him. Claire's head snaps toward the sound. That came from the front entrance. Gabriel's already moving, placing himself between her and the study room door. Call the police. Now! Claire fumbles for her phone, but the screen shows no signal. The basement always blocks reception. I need to get upstairs. No. Gabriel's voice drops to a whisper. Someone could be waiting. The back exit through the children's section. Go, I'll handle this. I'm not leaving you. Another crash echoes, closer now. Footsteps in the main reading room. Gabriel grabs the contract and essential documents, shoving them into his jacket. The rest he sweeps into Claire's messenger bag. Together then. But if I say run, I know. Claire grips his hand. I trust you. They slip into the darkness between the shelves, moving silently toward the rear exit. Claire's familiarity with every creaky floorboard guides their steps. A beam of light sweeps the main floor above, accompanied by the murmur of voices. Gabriel pulls her behind a shelf as footsteps descend the stairs to their level. Claire holds her breath, pressing close to him in the shadows. His heart pounds against her shoulder, but his grip remains steady. The beam passes their hiding spot, continues down the row. Another few steps and they'll reach the children's section. The exit beyond leads to the alley where Gabriel's car waits. A floorboard creaks behind them. Going somewhere, little brother? Victor's voice slices through the darkness. Claire feels Gabriel's muscles coil, ready to move, but more lights appear at the end of the row, trapping them between shelves of books and approaching footsteps. It's over, Victor. Gabriel's voice carries no trace of fear, only resignation. We have proof of everything. Proof? Victor's laugh holds no warmth. A few documents won't matter once the board hears about your mental breakdown, your paranoid accusations, your manipulation of this librarian to support your delusions. Leave her out of this. Steel enters Gabriel's tone. Oh, but she's very much involved now. Victor steps closer, his expensive shoes silent on the old floor. Though I'm sure we can reach an arrangement. The library needs funding, doesn't it? It would be a shame if an electrical fire... That's enough. The new voice rings with authority. Sophia Royce emerges from the shadows near the children's section, flanked by two uniformed police officers. "Drop the weapon, Victor." Claire hadn't seen the gun in Victor's hand until he raises it, moonlight from the high windows catching the metal. "Always the dramatic one, Sophia." "But you're outnumbered." "Are we?" Sophia's smile carries echoes of her brother's determination. More officers appear at the end of the row, weapons drawn. "The police have been watching the building since sunset. Your men outside are already in custody." Victor's composure cracks. The gun wavers. "It's finished," Gabriel says quietly. "Don't make this worse." For a moment, Claire thinks Victor might shoot anyway, but his shoulders slump, the fight draining from him as an officer approaches with handcuffs. "You'll regret this," he spits as they lead him away. "Both of you. The company will collapse without me." "No." Gabriel's voice carries through the library's shadows. "It will thrive without your corruption, starting tomorrow." Claire sags against him as the last footsteps fade. His arms encircle her, solid and sure. "I'm sorry," he murmurs into her hair. "I never meant to bring this danger to your door. You didn't bring it." Claire lifts her head, meeting his troubled gaze. "You brought justice, truth. That's worth any risk." His fingers trace her cheek, reverent. "You amaze me. Your courage, your faith. I don't deserve." "Stop." She presses her fingers to his lips. "No more doubts. We have a board meeting to prepare for." A genuine smile touches his mouth beneath her fingers. "Yes, we do." Dawn breaks over Cedar Grove as they emerge from the library, Sophia waiting by her car to drive them to the city. Tomorrow's headlines will tell of corporate corruption exposed, justice served, a family legacy redeemed. But for now, Claire simply holds Gabriel's hand as they walk into the growing light, leaving shadows behind. Cameras flash as Gabriel strides into the Royce Corporation boardroom, Claire and Sophia flanking him. Shareholders and board members whisper behind raised hands, examining the man many thought dead or permanently incapacitated. Victor and Elena sit at the head of the mahogany table, their sharp suits and composed expressions a stark contrast to the handcuffs binding their wrists. Armed officers stand behind them, a clear message about the gravity of the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gabriel's voice fills the room with quiet authority. "I apologize for interrupting your scheduled meeting, but there are matters requiring immediate attention." This is irregular. Peterson, one of Victor's longtime allies on the board, half rises. "Mr. Royce is clearly unwell. His accident left me with temporary amnesia, yes." Gabriel sets his briefcase on the table with deliberate care. "But my memory has returned, along with evidence of systematic fraud orchestrated by the current leadership." He begins methodically displaying documents on the projection screen. Bank statements, transfer records, the contract Claire discovered, dated years before the accident. Over the past decade, Victor and Elena Royce have embezzled approximately $47 million through a network of shell companies. Gabriel's tone remains steady as gasps ripple through the room. "When I discovered their scheme, they attempted to silence me permanently." The accident photos appear next. Gabriel's mangled car, medical reports detailing his injuries, security camera footage showing the truck that ran him off the road. The driver was hired through a shell company traced directly to offshore accounts controlled by Victor and Elena. Sophia steps forward, adding her own evidence to the presentation, the same accounts used to launder embezzled funds. Elena's composure cracks. "You have no proof we ordered. Actually, we do." Gabriel nods to one of the officers who plays a recorded phone conversation. Victor's voice fills the room, discussing payment arrangements with the driver. The boardroom erupts in chaos. Shareholders shout questions. Board members demand explanations. Through it all, Gabriel stands unwavering, answering each query with precision and clarity. "Mr. Royce." The board's senior member, Margaret Chen, rises slowly. "These accusations are extremely serious. The evidence appears substantial. What do you propose as our path forward?" "Immediate leadership change." Gabriel meets her gaze steadily. "I'm prepared to resume my role as CEO with a commitment to full transparency and corporate reform. Sophia will join the board as Chief Compliance Officer to prevent future abuses. And the stolen funds will be traced and recovered to the fullest extent possible." Gabriel's expression hardens. "Those responsible will face criminal charges. The company will cooperate fully with authorities." You'll destroy everything Father built, Victor snarls as officers move to escort him out. Turn his legacy into something honest. Gabriel's voice carries no trace of doubt. Something worthy of the trust our employees and shareholders place in us. That's the only legacy worth preserving. Votes are cast, resolutions passed. By noon, Gabriel Royce officially reclaims his position as CEO of Royce Corporation. Camera flashes capture him shaking hands with board members, outlining his vision for the company's future. But his gaze keeps returning to Claire, standing quietly at the back of the room. She watches pride war with vulnerability in his expression as he addresses the press, knowing how much this victory costs him. When the last reporter leaves, Gabriel walks directly to her. His fingers find hers, twining together with familiar certainty. "Ready to go home?" she asks softly. His smile reaches his eyes, erasing the last shadows of doubt. "Yes, we have a library to save." Sunlight streams through the library's newly restored windows, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floors. The heating system hums efficiently, its ancient rattles silenced by modern equipment. Fresh paint brightens the walls and new computers gleam in the research section. Claire moves through the stacks, straightening books with automatic precision, still adjusting to the building's transformation. Gabriel's donation, a portion of the recovered funds, has given her mother's dream new life. The sound of children's laughter drifts from the reading room, where Sophia leads story time each Wednesday. Another change Claire never expected, the former corporate executive finding her own healing in sharing stories with eager young minds. Footsteps approach behind her. Claire recognizes Gabriel's tread without turning, smiling as his arms slip around her waist. "Shouldn't you be running your company?" she teases, leaning back against his chest. "I am." His breath stirs her hair. "The most important investment we've made this year." Claire turns in his embrace, studying his face. The corporate mask he wears in board meetings has softened here among the books, replaced by something warmer, more real. "The children's wing dedication is next week," she reminds him. "The whole town's excited about naming it after Mom. Margaret Whitmore's legacy living on." Gabriel's thumb traces her cheek, along with her daughter's strength. He steps back slightly, and Claire's breath catches at the intensity in his gaze. "I had a speech prepared," he says quietly. "Something elegant about second chances and finding home in unexpected places, but standing here where everything began." He sinks to one knee, withdrawing a small velvet box. "Claire Whitmore, will you marry me?" Tears blur Claire's vision as she stares at the ring. Elegant but not ostentatious, exactly like something she would choose. Like something her mother would have loved. "Yes!" The word emerges as a whisper, then stronger. "Yes!" The ring slides onto her finger as applause erupts from the reading room doorway. Sophia stands there grinning, surrounded by children and regular patrons who've gathered to witness the moment. Gabriel laughs, pulling Claire close as their impromptu audience cheers. "I might have had some co-conspirators." Claire kisses him, tasting joy and possibility, and the future stretching bright before them. Above the circulation desk, her mother's photo seems to smile in approval, watching love bloom in the sanctuary of books she created. Autumn sunlight filters through stained glass windows, casting jeweled patterns across the library's main reading room. White chairs line the central aisle, filled with their closest friends and the Cedar Grove community that has become family. Books surround them like silent witnesses, classics, mysteries, romances, each holding stories of love and redemption like their own. Claire stands before the makeshift altar, her simple white dress echoing the elegance of the restored architectural details surrounding them. Gabriel's eyes never leave her face as they exchange vows, his voice steady with certainty. "I promise to be your partner in all things," he says, sliding the ring onto her finger. "To face every challenge together, to celebrate every joy, and to always find our way home to each other among these shelves. I promise to remind you of who you truly are," Claire responds, her fingers warm against his as she places his ring. "To stand beside you in darkness and in light, and to keep writing our story together, page by page." Sophia beams from her place as witness, while Sarah dabs at tears beside her. The gathered crowd represents both their worlds now merged, corporate executives and local shopkeepers, board members and regular patrons, all united in celebration. As they seal their vows with a kiss, Claire catches a glimpse of her mother's photo watching over them. She would have loved this, Claire thinks. Not just the romance, but the way the library continues to bring people together, to transform lives, to create new beginnings. Gabriel squeezes her hand as they turn to face their guests, now husband and wife. In his eyes, Claire sees their future stretching before them. Mornings spent balancing corporate responsibilities with community needs, evenings curled together sharing stories, a lifetime of chapters waiting to be written. They step into that future together, surrounded by books and love and possibility, their own story just beginning. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our story. Your time and support mean the world to us. If this video resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Your engagement helps us grow and continue sharing meaningful stories. See you in the next video.